everything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now's the time to find your perfect ride. With financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and savings up to $3,500 during the Polaris New Year's sales event at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. The mountains are full of snow, and Kurtz has all the best machines, apparel, and accessories to take full advantage of the season. Online at KurtzPolaris.com, the most fun you can have in snow. Kurtz Polaris, winter awaits. Offers valid in U.S. through 2/29/20 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Guys, you're not alone. Half of all men have erectile dysfunction. Don't wait for a little blue pill to kick in. Get your sex life back with Gainswave Therapy at New Health, Montana. Gainswave is a safe, 20-minute medical treatment that breaks up blockages and repairs blood vessels. Gainswave is simple, non-invasive, and available at New Health, Montana here in Missoula. For a limited time, you can receive 2 treatments free as part of our pilot program. Visit newhealthmontana.com to learn more.
Looking your best is no longer a luxury. It's more attainable than ever before. Learn how Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates are reinventing cosmetic treatment right here in Missoula to make it more effective, less invasive, and more financially viable than ever before. Forget what you think you know about fillers, injections, and peels. At Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates, they can design a treatment program that's minimally invasive and meets your specific needs without sticking out. Restore youthfulness and reduce facial wrinkles around the eyes, forehead, and mouth with Botox. Restore lost volume and reduce signs of aging with Juvederm. Shed entire layers of skin with one of 4 different chemical peel options. They're not about Band-Aids or cover-ups. They're about real, lasting change that meets your unique needs. Book your consultation and learn how cosmetic treatment can bring your inner beauty to the surface.
Call Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates today, 728-3811, or visit nwpsa.com.
Your University of Montana Lady Grizz basketball team is home for 2 more Big Sky Conference home games. The Lady Grizz host Idaho State Thursday night and Weber State Saturday afternoon. For Saturday's game, all kids 12 and under wearing any jersey get in free. Saturday is also the annual Diaper Dash at halftime, where toddlers crawl across the court for a chance to win prizes. Visit gogrizz.com to find out more. Lady Grizz basketball Thursday night at 7 and Saturday afternoon at 2. Dahlberg Arena in the Adams Center. Tickets available at the door.
Hey, it's David with Garden City Plumbing and Heating. When clogs occur, water is stopped from draining properly. If it can't go down the drain, chances are the water is going to want to come back up, causing dirty water to make its way back into your home and potentially causing serious damage. If you are currently experiencing slow or backed up drains and would like to have an expert come out and take a look, contact us today at 728-5550.
Crawford's Automotive knows that winter driving is hard on vehicles and anything can go wrong. That's why Crawford's is the best place to take your vehicle when work needs to get done. A full-service shop, no matter what your rig needs, from a simple oil change to brakes, a new engine, or transmission, Crawford's Auto will get the job done in good time and at a fair price. Chase Crawford's been working in Missoula on vehicles for decades. His name is on the shop, and his reputation is second to none. So when your rig needs some work done, go to Crawford's, 2504 West Broadway. Crawford's Automotive.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Tutel and Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television. I like football! Now, sports talk from Montana for Montana. Live from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Coulter Nuanez.
Denarius McGee heading for Houston. And Jay Flores. Toss Montana men's basketball Good afternoon. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Thanks for letting us be with you on this very fine Wednesday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. We are happy to be with you. If you'd like to find us on the World Wide Web, maybe it's easier for you to listen, on the DL at your office or just at your house when you're on your computer. 1029ESPN.com. That's where you go, 1029ESPN.com. You can listen live on the stream. Stream available all the time, and it is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call, you can do that as well. You're going to need this number today because we got some trivia questions for you, my friends. 329-1899, 329-1899. The phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to open with a little bit of college football and the news coming out yesterday. Denarius McGee, he has been the recruiting coordinator for Montana State. He's also been a running backs coach, among other things, for the Montana State Bobcats, is leaving MSU to take a position with the Houston Texans, going to the NFL. The position exactly has not been announced yet, but we will discuss that, and also what that means is the second coach, second on the offensive side of the ball as well for Montana State, is moving on to a new gig. So we will get into that a little bit. We also are going to hear from our dear friend Tommy Evans. Now, Tommy Evans is a longtime producer of this show and one of our all-time besties around here. This one, my friends, is worth the wait, okay? The story you're going to get in about 30 minutes from now is it's just not possible to be made up. It can only be the truth. So we will bring this to you. We get Wednesday today. We're going to send you over to the Desperado Sports Tavern, get you set up with wings from the Desperado, and also in the next hour, Jay Flores. He is the subject of our ESPN Roundtable this week. He's an assistant on the Montana men's basketball team, has been with the Grizzlies for 4 seasons, originally as the ops manager for the Grizz, and then as an assistant coach officially for the last 3 seasons. And so he will talk to us about his path from being a player to being a coach, the Division II level, and then here at the University of Montana as well. So looking forward to that conversation with Coach Flores. So there you go. That is your show outlook today. Coulter, now here's the thing. I know the story that Tommy's about to tell us in about 25 minutes. I said, Tommy, do not tell Coulter this story, because I want you to hear it with everybody else when this comes up here at the bottom of the hour. But this is, Tommy's a great storyteller anyway. That's why he's on the radio. But he also, this is just, you're just not going to believe it, Coulter. Not going to believe it. So anyway, with that.
Once upon a time, Albert Einstein said, you either believe that everything in life is a miracle or nothing in life is a miracle. I just told Tommy in the hallway, I live my life under the premise that you either believe that everything I say is true or nothing that I say is true. And I told Tommy he's one of the greatest storytellers that I've ever met, because I don't care. When Tommy tells a story, I don't care if it's true or not, because he tells it so good.
Just let him
Everybody else is telling stories. I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is a pretty good story, but you're making most of this up. Tommy, I don't care if he's making it up, because the stories are so funny, and he sells them so great.
Well, he's an engineer by profession, but he is a storyteller by talent. That is for sure. So we'll hear what he's got to say, and happy to have Tommy back on the show. Coulter, let's start with the Montana State Bobcats and the news that came out yesterday. Denarius McGee is leaving Montana State's coaching staff to take a position with the Houston Texans of the NFL. Tough to blame a guy when he gets an opportunity to do something in the league. Now, we don't know what this position is yet, if he's going to be an analyst of some sort, or what exactly it is that he's going to be doing with the Texans. But congratulations to him. I think that's certainly going to be an exciting thing for him. It also leaves a gap. He was the running backs coach for Montana State, but also the recruiting coordinator, and that's a big position, on a college football team, to be the point person for recruiting. Now, that does not mean that the majority of going out and actually getting guys falls to you. That falls to the whole coaching staff, but it's a lot about logistics, and it is certainly about getting out and seeing guys. And as a former Montana State Bobcat, he's a great guy to have in that spot. So this is a twofold significance for Montana State and Jeff Choate.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about here. I think first and foremost, Denarius McGee's biggest impact on Montana State since he first came to Bozeman back in 2009 has been his exuberant and effusive personality. I mean, there's always great recruiting stories when it talks about groups of guys, especially when they open pipelines and then that group of guys ends up accomplishing great things. And the story of when a plane full of young men from the Dallas-Fort Worth area came to Montana State. I think there was 11 guys from the Dallas-Fort Worth area that came to Montana State on an official visit in January of 2009. And Denarius McGee, who had just led Euless Trinity High School to the Texas 6A State Championship. I mean, if you've seen the Madden commercials with the black and red high school team doing the haka dance, that's Euless Trinity. I mean, they're a national brand, and Denarius McGee was the quarterback of that team. He also happens to be about 5'10", so he got a ton of offers, but they were all to play defense. No one wanted to play quarterback. Well, he's on the plane, and I think half the Texas guys were like, man, let's go to Montana State, because they had just approved their stadium renovation. They were going to add the Big South end zone. The program looked like it was on the rise. And I think some of the other guys were like, man, January, Montana, no thanks. I'll just stay home. I'll go play at Sam Houston State or something. That sounds way more fun than February in Bozeman. But Denarius recruited and recruited and recruited on that trip. And he talked Jody Owens and Everett Gilbert and who else was on that trip? I think 8 of the 11 guys ended up committing, and like 4 of those guys become not just starters, but I mean, Jody Owens was the Big Sky Conference MVP. Denarius McGee was the Big Sky Conference MVP twice. These were the key players on Montana State's 2010, 2011, 2012 national championship team. At one point, they had 22 guys from Texas. I think Denarius McGee deserves a ton of credit for that. His most important position on Jeff Choate's staff the last 3 years has been as a face of the program and an ambassador for the program. More than his ability to coach quarterbacks, more than his ability to coach running backs, more than even his ability to recruit football players. If you've ever met Denarius, you never forget it. He's one of the most in-your-face, likable. I mean, he screams, ooh-wee, when you ask him a good question. Like, he's the most entertaining guy to interview I've ever had in my career. Like, he's so funny. He's got those Mississippi roots and the Texas drawl, and he's just so excited about life all the time. So I think that his just endless energy is so good just to have on campus in general. I mean, he's an ambassador in every form and fashion, talking to the kid, any kid, not just a student athlete, keeping the energy high and the morale high in the offices. But then, oh, by the way, he did a great job coaching this year. I mean, Montana State's running backs group should have been a disaster. Troy Anderson, part-time. Isaiah Fonse, limping around for most of the season. Logan Jones coming off of a injury-riddled year that he had to take a red shirt in. He emerges as a breakout star. So he did a good job there. But then you mentioned the recruiting aspect, too. I think that Choate has put a priority on bringing former Bobcats back because when they're, especially in recruiting, they can give that authentic pitch. And you're right. A lot of recruiting coordinators aren't necessarily in the trenches recruiting, but Denarius did both. He was an ace recruiter on the trail while also being the logistical organizer of the recruiting scene as well.
So when it comes to the state of affairs, though, now that is the case at Montana State, I mean, you talked about all the things that he did. That's all gone. And you're not going to replace, like, everybody's their own individual, has their own path or whatever that they've been on, and so whoever you find to take up that mantle, and by the way, you don't have to hire a running backs coach who's also the recruiting coordinator. Whoever Jeff Choate wants to give the assignment of recruiting coordinator to, he can do that, and it may well be somebody who's on the staff right now. We'll see.
And they shuffled that position around quite a bit already. Josh Toffoli held it for a minute before he resigned from the program. Matt Miller had it, but then when he was the OC, Choate didn't want him doing both, so then they promoted Denarius. So they've had multiple recruiting coordinators already.
But this is one of the situations where Jeff Choate has hired a very young staff, basically, and they've been very good, obviously very productive. They went to the national semifinal this past year. It also is just a fact about coaching college football at any level, really any football, that the jobs are pretty short-lived most of the time in terms of their duration, whether you get fired or whether you find something else that you want to go do. And we all know that there's a couple of different things that are going on for anybody who's working, but especially it seems like in college football, there is the climbing of the ladder, whatever you want to call it, move it to another level, a higher level maybe. It's also for Denarius McGee, and this is going home I mean, going back to Texas, where he went to high school and is from and familiar with, and that stuff, family, decisions that you make on where you want to be and why you want to be there are always part of the equation as well. Point being, when you have a young staff, you usually have a bunch of guys who are excited to work, who have high energy, usually who are pretty talented, which is great, and also who are very open to, maybe they haven't put roots down in a particular place. Or maybe they do have, a vision about what their career looks like and the places that they want to go and where they want to be maybe a head coach at some point in their lives. It's a very fluid thing, as we all know. And so now Jeff Choate looks on his staff, and he's got no offensive coordinator, no recruiting game coordinator, and no running backs coach as of right now. We talked about this the other day. Jeff Choate's got the list, so to speak, whether it's an actual list or whatever. He knows who the next guy that he wants if he loses a coach or whatever is in there, which you have to have. But now you're talking about two guys on the offensive side of the ball that are not there, and who knows? I mean, we're still early in the offseason here. I mean, you think maybe most of the shuffling is done, but you never know what's going to happen over the course of the next several months as we head into spring ball. But when you talk about filling that spot, those places, in particular the offensive coordinator, which is outside of Jeff Choate, the offensive coordinator is the biggest position on the coaching staff at Montana State because Jeff is a defensive guy, right? I mean, so this is you're not a co-offensive coach or co-head coach, or something like that, but you have a ton of autonomy in what's going on that side of the ball, and the buck kind of stops with you as the OC. So I'm very interested to see who Montana State brings in and how they fill these up.
Honestly, one of the most interesting parts about college football at the FCS level, specifically in Montana and the Big Sky Conference, that I think isn't talked about very much, is the structuring of a coaching staff. So the head coach has a contract that has a guaranteed base salary, and it's incentive-laden, and he's going to make at least this much, and he could make as much as this much. And it's paid for by the athletic department, which is then in turn paid for by the school and by the state. He's a state employee. So are the coaches, but the money comes from a little bit different areas. A lot of times it comes from the athletic department, or sometimes you can fortify your assistant coach's pool through booster money, whereas that's not necessarily the case for the head coach. But most, the rough number I'm actually really fascinated because what's going on at the University of Montana right now, the fact that Bobby Hauck is potentially entering his third season with no turnover on his coaching staff, that to me is unprecedented at this level.
Correct.
I'm not sure what his coaching pool is. I do think he has a lot of guys that are working for a lot less than they're worth just because they want to be here. I mean, Brett Pease was an offensive coordinator in the SEC. I mean, he could be demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But he's also found guys who maybe their motivation is not simply financial. Right?
Totally. But what I'm getting at least at Montana State, the last time I've looked at the numbers, the pool of money was between about $480,000 and $500,000 that Jeff Choate has to divide amongst his staff. Now, that money got divided in a little bit different way a couple years ago when they added the extra assistant to the FCSL, so now you have an extra guy, but then you have to divide it up in a lot of different ways. But some coaches choose to go big and use maybe 40 to 50% of that pool on coordinators, pay your coordinators $100,000 to $120,000, and then splice it on down. Mm-hmm. Guys that have run game coordinator, pass game coordinator, recruiting coordinator, director of high school operations. A lot of times those guys get a little bit more money than the entry-level positions. And then oftentimes you're going to have positions on your coaching staff that are getting paid between $28,000 and $32,000. Not very much money at all. And those are usually the running backs, the cornerbacks coaches, the places where it's guys that are in their first full-time assistant jobs.
Right.
So that's why I think that the structure of the way that Choate does it is pretty smart when we talk about his young coaches, because on one hand, you got a guy like Matt Miller, who's a rising star in the coaching world, a very smart guy who was able to handle being an offensive coordinator before the age of 30.
Yeah.
But then when he leaves, it's not that crazy detrimental to replace him. And it's the same thing with Denarius McGee. They're going to miss his personality. You can't replace a three-time All-American that's basically marketing your school at all costs. I mean, he's one of the great ambassadors for Montana State. But on the other hand, you can definitely find a very quality running back coach who's very hungry, and maybe he is also your recruiting coordinator, or maybe there's somebody else on your staff who you think's ready for it. So I think that the way Choate structured it is pretty smart in terms of that, because you can replace guys that leave, and you expect them to leave because they are young, you've had success, and you want to help them out. I think that's the last part of the story, too. I know Denarius applied for the offensive coordinator opening. He did not get it. And I think that Jeff Choate probably encouraged him to take this position and said, hey, man, if you want to be an offensive coordinator here or anywhere, then when you want to go, go get some more knowledge than just the and bring the ideas back to the Yeah, but it's 2001
to say, hey, I'm not hiring you, here's why, and let me see what I can do to help you get the things that I think you need in order to have this position. If that's in fact the way that it went, that's pretty stand up, on the part of Jeff Choate, it seems to me. And it's not hard, it's not easy to have some of those conversations sometimes, you know what I mean? Especially guys who maybe, whether you're personally close with, professionally close with, certainly guys who've been on the staff and have played at the school, and they go, I don't think it's your time to do this yet. Kind of an interesting deal. It also makes you wonder about Matt Miller, because Matt Miller took the offensive coordinator job. He's 27, 28 maybe, when he first took the thing. I mean, that's a young guy to be doing that. I realize it kind of happened in the midst of a season. They did a big shakeup and everything like that, but that's, noticeable.
It is. The Matt Miller situation is pretty interesting, too, because Montana State had their backs against the wall. Their offensive play calling had just reached a point of red alert. I mean, it was a disaster. And Choate knew he had to make a move, and he fired Bob Cole and demoted Brian Armstrong, and it was kind of a last-ditch effort. And the initial return was poor. They went to Idaho State, scored 17 points, and it was like, man, they're still struggling. This team can't miss the playoffs this year. They need to make the playoffs with the spectacular kid that they have in Troy Anderson. Yeah. But then Miller locked it in, and they won 5 in a row, and they won a playoff game. And that was the greatest tryout you could have. Yeah. I think if they would have fizzled, not made the playoffs, that Choate he wouldn't have got rid of Matt Miller, but I think he would have explored another offensive coordinator. But then he gave Miller a chance to learn on the job, and Miller then thrived this last year, and they were actually good on offense this last year.
It's interesting, too, because a lot of this stuff, you talk about putting in the work and doing all, putting in your time and all that kind of stuff. So much of this is just circumstantial. Like, does Matt Miller end up at Boise State, back at his alma mater, in a good staff and a top 25 program, right, if Montana State isn't straight bad on offense a year ago, for half of it?
Interesting.
And maybe he does.
I know what you're saying. The Matt Miller situation is a little bit different, because I think that Matt Miller was predestined to be the wide receivers coach at Boise State at some point.
At some point, right, no doubt.
Right. And so when they've had overturned the offensive coordinator spot multiple times, so then finally when they promote their wide receivers coach, it was kind of just signed, so delivered. It was almost obvious.
Right.
So back to your point, though, I think this is a good one. Assistant coaches, especially at the FCS level, are spread so thin. I mean, I think that people know broadly how hard these guys work, but these guys work really hard.
Yeah.
And when you're at one of the entry level spots and you're making $30,000 a year, and I bet you Denarius McGee, when you talk about, it's not just in the season, because they were doing visits to Bozeman in June. So you're talking about recruiting stuff from June all the way through the end of February. I mean, you're grinding every moment you're awake. And it's not like it's some crazy thing. A lot of people do it. I do it often as well. But you're spread so thin that I think a lot of times, especially in your development as, say, learning to be a play caller or learning all the ins and outs of offensive development, offensive play calling, offensive strategy, sometimes you can get kind of lost, because if you're really prioritizing recruiting because you're the recruiting coordinator, Now you're maybe not spending 4 hours watching film.
Exactly.
And that's one thing we've talked with Kane Ione about. Kane had always been a tremendous individual linebackers coach. Great at coaching linebackers. The art of calling plays, he never really had a mentor when it came to that, even though he worked for multiple DCs. And he never really got a chance to concentrate on it because when he wasn't coaching linebackers, he was doing assistant head coach duties and he was recruiting. Well, so then when he went to the University of Washington and he got to be an analyst, he didn't have to recruit. He didn't have to coach. He didn't have to game plan. All he did was study football.
Yeah.
So Pete Kwiatkowski and Jimmy Lake could just say, Coach Ione, what do you think of this? You did the full scout on Stanford. How does our game plan look? And he could say, but on 3rd and 6, Stanford's tendency is to throw the tight end stick, so we should have this blitz in here. Truly honing in on it.
Right.
And I think that's going to be one way where Denarius thrives because he's been a graduate assistant, a quality control guy, director of ops, from his time at Florida Atlantic, North Carolina State, and then coming back to Montana State, coaching positions, being a recruiting coordinator. Now he gets to dig in on football. The guy already has a brilliant football IQ. And so I think this has a chance to really develop his acumen at a high level. And I think the other thing is that people maybe forget sometimes is that calling plays itself is an art. Just because you have a high football IQ, it does not necessarily mean you can call plays.
How you go in there and actually navigate your way through a football game that's in motion and is changing all the time.
There's been great offensive coordinators that were never good players at all. There's also been guys that were great players that went to be offensive coordinators and just got destroyed.
Yeah.
There's been all sorts of scuttle on who's going to be the next OC at Montana State, and names like Travis Lulay have gotten thrown out there. And, we've had Travis Lulay on this show a couple times. He's an exceptionally smart guy. He's very articulate. He's very personable. He would make a great college coach if he was to dedicate himself to it. But I think that broadly assuming that just because he was an all-Big Sky and professional level quarterback that he could call plays, he probably could. But just to assume that it's directly resulting in success
in time, right?
Right.
To some extent. That's what has always sort of baffled me, but I start to get a little bit at least about guys who walk off the basketball floor, NBA players, and go right to being the head coach. I mean, Luke Walton didn't go right to it, but went to it very soon. Jason Kidd obviously went to it. Tyronn Lue. And you go, seriously? Like, really? But then you look at it and you go, well,
the NBA is so much about
it's not, they're not, you don't, it's so different. You're not play calling. You're not trying to, you get your timeouts right, your relationships right, your time management right, and you're pretty good to go.
The NBA is so much more about ego and personality management, right? Yeah. Luke Walton was a locker room guy, so that's why he got a chance as a coach because he'll make the Lakers harmonious, which didn't happen, but that was kind of the assumption, right? But there is, I'm just thinking of coordinators I've covered.
All I'm saying is that in basketball, the learning curve for coaching can happen while you're playing at a much higher level than it can while you're a player in football, whether it's college or professional.
Sure. And also, like an NBA player like Luke Walton is not going to be able to step into a college job. He'll be exceptional there,
right?
Because he's not going to know all the logistics of recruiting.
Yeah.
You got to call inbounds plays all the time. Like, it's way different. The play calling element of a college football game, though, it does take a distinct talent. Like, you look at a guy like Ty Gregory. Being able to call plays in the line of fire from the sideline like Ty used to do, like it took him a couple years to figure it out too, but when he really would get rolling, it's a part of your mind where you can instinctually feel what's next. And are you going to pitch a shutout every time? No, but just being able to handle the pressure, have the next play, have the next play, have the next play. People would be surprised, man. In college football, you'd be surprised how often the play, especially on defense, is not called in right or not called in on time, and you're misaligned. And, that's how you're giving up 60-yard touchdowns on 3rd and 37 like the Grizz did in Bozeman in 2017. That's how it happened.
Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Good stuff. Interesting. We will get to more of it. But next, we got to bring our good buddy Tommy Evans back on the show. He's got a story that you're just not. We'll get to him right after. Say the 9th annual Smash Life Banked Slalom is this Saturday at Lost Trail, Powder Mountain. Listen, this is a celebration of Aaron Robinson, Dylan Candelaria, snowboarding, and the friendships that have been made because of them. It also is a fundraiser for the A-Rob Plant a Seed Project, which is run by his mother, Pam. Gives kids the opportunity to go ride on Aaron's favorite hill in Whitefish, okay? The men's and women's division winners also from the bank slalom. Get the golden ticket. They're automatically into the 2020 Mount Baker legendary banked slalom race over there in Washington State. So go sign up for this, participate in this. It's a great cause, a lot of fun, and a great memorial as well to a couple of kids who passed away doing what they love. Also, if you would like to maybe get yourself some free skiing or snowboarding down at Lost Trail, text the word powder to 31996. That's 31996. Text powder. You'll get powder alerts, information about Lost Trail, what's going on, ski conditions, and you'll be entered to win a 5-day punch pass for the 2019-2020 season. They're going to be drawing that soon. So go text powder right now to 31996. Lost Trail, Powder Mountain.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tire. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep with it, because all those services are actually like community shopping. That's why we offer more tires to help you. Stop by or book an appointment at LesSchwab.com. Les Schwab Tire, doing the right thing.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Two Tell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
It's easy to make healthy choices with Florence Coffee's variety of organic milk alternatives for your favorite beverage. Whether you have dietary needs or you just want to try something different, Florence Coffee carries organic oat, soy, and almond milks. Enjoy that smooth Florence Coffee flavor with milk alternatives. Stop by any of our locations in Western Montana or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com. Florence Coffee Company.
Hey, it's Colter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444. Online at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Join the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula and your community to save the oldest known Willamette steam engine in the nation. Why is Missoula's engine number 7 unique? The engine spent its life in our mountains and valleys, never traveling more than 80 miles from Missoula. It is one of only 2 surviving locomotives from Anaconda Lumber Co. and the only one in Montana. It's a Hollywood movie star, as it played a leading role in the 1954 film Timberjack. Support history and save the train. Learn more and donate at fortmissoulamuseum.org.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. Jeff Choate and the Montana State football team have more turnover on their offensive coaching staff exactly a week after news that former offensive coordinator Matt Miller is now the wide receivers coach at Boise State broke. Montana State running back coach and recruiting coordinator Denarius McGee is heading to the NFL. On Tuesday afternoon, Skyline Sports confirmed that former Bobcat All-American quarterback will take a to-be-determined position with the Houston Texans. Montana State confirmed the move on Tuesday evening. McGee has spent the last 3 seasons on Jeff Choate's staff, coaching quarterbacks in 2017 and running backs the last 2 seasons. He has served as the MSU recruiting coordinator the last year and a half.
Montana Tech has a new football coach. They announced the hiring of Kyle Sampson to lead the Ore-Digger football team on Tuesday. Sampson served as Tech's offensive coordinator last season. He replaces Chuck Morrell, who took an assistant job at Fresno State after 9 seasons as the head coach in Butte. Sampson, who was the 2002 Gatorade Player of the Year in Montana at Helena Capital, spent a season playing for the Grizzlies here in Missoula before transferring to play for his father, Mark Sampson, at Montana State Northern. After an All-Frontier Conference career, Sampson was the offensive coordinator for the Lights 2007-2014. He also led the Flathead Braves to the Class AA state title game 2018.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Baby, I'm reading this right. Baby, it just feels like you hold me, but not too tight. And when you talk me up, it don't sit nice. It can hurt.
Hey, boys and girls. This show is always great, but sometimes it's even better than that.
Clean the studio up, man.
Tommy Evans is here with us to tell Nuanez.
I wouldn't have all my stuff in here if I had a computer or a chair. I got nothing.
ESPN Radio. Tommy's in on the show, not even speaking into the microphone.
Sorry about that, people.
Cardinal sin number one.
I clean it up when we have guests. You're just eating bread
eating a piece of raw bread.
Oh, my gosh.
Just like straight bread out of a loaf of bread.
We're back.
No, Tommy, I'm going to mute you until you're done eating. I don't want to interrupt your meal here. But some days you get to have a little fun on this here show when our old friends come in here, young old friends, and Tommy, who continues to do yeoman's work on the engineering side of things for us, but a producer here on this show for a good long time, and brought us a number of stories, which we're forever grateful. Obviously, our annual Coin Dozer update we look greatly forward to every fair season, and we'll be ready for that in August. But Tommy, you've been filling me in for the last several days on sort of a daily update on the ongoing house sitting / dog sitting saga that you've been that you agreed to this week for some family friends who were out of town on a vacation. And so you are taking care of their house and their 3 dogs, and you were planning initially just to go up there and feed the dogs, take them for a walk, whatever. Maybe go stay in the comfort of your own home, at night. And I said, maybe it would be best if you actually just stayed up here. Well, you're having some pilot light issues. Maybe there's some water stuff that were maybe some of those.
No, none of that came up.
It didn't really get mentioned. It just sort of was like, well, learn on the fly what's going on here.
It was a really serious conversation. And by the way, thanks for having me back on the show that I just love to hate so much. But we went up there and they said, we want you to come up at least 3 different times to meet the dogs, get to know them, be familiar with them, et cetera, which is fine. And so throughout the course of those 3 different visits, what had happened was these questions came up. And I love these people. Yes. So, it's all in fun. But these questions came up like, so we keep a flashlight by this breaker box. Do you know how to flip the breaker just in case the breaker goes up? And it's like, yeah. Do you have any idea to start that up again? Yeah, I do. And so all these questions were coming up and making me go, well, what's this about? So they took off on Saturday, and that was my first evening over there at their place. and things seemed to be okay. I thought, I'm up here, I'm house sitting, I care about these people greatly. I'm gonna surprise them and just really clean this place. Rachel and I are really gonna slick it up while they're gone. And so we bought out heavy duty vacuum cleaners and the
house at my place.
And we went and spent some money at Walmart and bought all these various cleaning supplies and just scrubbed the place top to bottom. And granted, it's a very beautiful, clean home, but we made it extra clean. It's fresh. They came back, everything's ready to go. And what is that? Oh, man. There's a shampoo? Oh, it's vomit. A pile of vomit Saturday night. Oh, man. I thought it was the stinky, wet dog food we had 3 bowls of. So we clean it up and we re-shampoo.
So we had a dog pukes on the carpet.
So that was Saturday night. Now, by Monday night, Rachel and I had cleaned up our 10th pile of puke. And we elected to celebrate, give ourselves a break, and go treat ourselves to some Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay.
Upon our return, not only is there what makes to be 12 now piles of puke, but there's a mystery streak through the carpet. And it's a deep, pungent brown. And it's like, oh, and much like the board on Candyland.
I mean, this sounds like a sick animal, man. Like, this ain't normal. Is it all three of them? Is it just
all three of them?
All three of them.
All three of them. And much like the board on Candyland, it takes you to, it's like this long, slithery, golden palace of the Himalayan mountain. Jackpot! There's a world record pile of dog dung on the carpet. Oh, yeah, we love to shampoo the carpet. Let's do this again. So we clean it up. And the dog, we find the dog, and he had squatted and really kind of drug his butt all through the carpet. And this is matted into the white hair on the dog. And so we're like, okay, well, we should probably try to wash the dog. We're going to take him to the groomer. And then it's like, well, you need the records, you need all this stuff. And we don't have it. They're off the grid. We can't reach the owners of the pets or of the home.
They're actually on a trip in which they are actually out of service, which is remarkable that you can still do it, but you can in this day and age. So
it's possible, man. So we're like, all right, here we go. We got a belly full of boneless wings, a couple of cocktails. We're going to put this dog in the bath. All right, we're going to wash him up.
Man.
Turn it on. I'm waiting. You got the hand under the faucet, under the faucet, under the faucet. It's ice cold, it's ice cold, it's ice cold. Son of a gun.
The pilot light's out.
The pilot light must have gone out on the hot water tank. Go down to the basement. Sure enough, I fire the thing up, get it going again. It's running. Go back up. I'm like, we can't wait.
Right.
We've got to figure this out.
Need to get clean.
Because in the meantime, while I'd gone downstairs to light the pilot light, the dog had gotten up on the couch and sat down. So now there's a poop spot on the couch. And he jumped over onto the chair where the blanket was, and there's a freaking poop spot on the quilt. So I'm like, this is getting out of control.
He's getting very close here, right here.
Rachel's
going bad.
All right,
it's going bad.
She goes, Tommy, I've never seen you quite like this. Do we need to check in with one another? Wasn't the right question to ask. So we pick up the dog, we put him in the bath, and it's like, well, here goes our cold bath time, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. So it's ice cold water. Boom, boom. Get the feet in there, and it's cold
you're in
on
the
your
tub,
toes,
holding
man.
the dog.
Holding the dog, and everything stinks. It smells like wet dog. It smells like dog diarrhea is all over the place. And we're snipping this matted poop out of the dog's butt. And pretty soon he decides it's a great time to go ahead and relieve himself a little more. And I got to tell you, the warm dog poop coming out of this dog felt so nice on my frozen toes.
Oh my God.
Seriously. So it couldn't get any crazier. It couldn't get any crazier. So we get the dog's butt trimmed. We get him all washed up. We get him out. I'm freezing. I'm trying to find a sauna in town or a hot tub or whatever. Oh, we missed some. So we're trying to put him back in to the tub, and boom, pitch black. The house goes silent. Not a light at all. Did they forget to pay their power bill? Is that why the water's cold? Good thing there's a flashlight by the door. So out I walk to the front porch. I look up and down the street. Everybody else's house has lights on, porch lights, etc. So I go downstairs to the panel, and every single breaker in the house, I've never seen this before.
Yes. They're all gone.
Every single one's tripped, sort of halfway. I mean, it's not like they're turned off.
Yeah, but that's what they do. They go
American
halfway
Horror
over.
Story.
So I'm like, okay, well, good thing I wasn't,
Good thing they asked me if I knew how to flip a breaker.
totally ignorant to how this works, because I would be screwed. Right? Turn them all back on. Finish wiping the dog up and everything. Go to bed, and Rachel says, got your brush. Jumps up. Water starts flying out from under the sink. Tommy! Like, these dogs are going to have to fend for themselves, because I've had enough.
Yeah.
So we turn off the water to the sink, go to bed, wake up, and I wake up, this is this morning, to a very concerning sort of cry. I'm like, uh-oh, sliding out there, and there's that same pungent smell again. Someone had an accident, so we go out. There's poop drug all across the carpet again.
Candyland line is back.
The Candyland is back, and there's a nice big heaping pile, and this other dog's laying kind of by the front. And he's laying there yiping and hollering. So I go over to him, and I'm petting the dog. What are you doing? Starts pooping, and there's just piles of poop piling up. And he's looking at me, and he goes, "Ah," and he passes away. The dog passed away.
Died this morning?
Died. About 4:45, 5 a.m. These poor people, the entire family is off the grid. I can't reach them until Saturday afternoon, and that's when they begin their return to Missoula.
I mean, so they're going to come home and their house is going to be flooded with no power, no hot water, and a dead dog.
Their dog passed away? I don't know. I've never been in a situation like this.
This is horrendous and remarkable. The dog died while you were petting it this morning,
and it was pooping. And the yeah, super old dog. But you guys, I've never felt so awkward and uncomfortable. I don't know what to do.
Well, I bet. I wouldn't have known what to have done about 100 times.
I mean, I know what you do. You send them the podcast, this exact thing right here, and you say, "I'm never watching your house again. Thanks for everything. See you later."
I'm honestly kind of nervous talking about this because
no, this is on public record.
The entire city is going to know what happened and that they lost their beloved family pet. They have no idea.
I mean, this has been how old is this dog?
It was an old dog, like 15, 16 years old.
Okay, so this is old. I mean, it's an old dog. I mean, at the point that you are talking about the amount of cleanup that has been required here, this is clearly a dog that's not in control of itself any longer.
No, yeah, he was struggling.
And
he was struggling.
You know, that is kind of a telltale sign. Yeah. But the fact that we're in the middle of the week and you still got the second half to go, I do wish you the best with the two remaining.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ryan.
I can't believe. I don't know that I'm not saying it's never happened. Certainly it has happened. But I'm not familiar of another situation in which, while on vacation, the house sitter who care for the home and the pets lost one of the animals during the course of that time.
An awful situation to be in. And prior to their departure, Rachel, my lovely life partner, Rachel said, "That dog's going to die with me."
She called it.
And so we go up to their house for the third meeting, and they said, he's not really eating a lot. He's kind of in and out. Just be on the lookout. And Rachel said, "You guys, if you hear something crazy while you're gone, what's the plan? What's the protocol?" And they said, "Just don't worry about it. It'll be okay."
So what did you do?
I went outside, had flip-flops on. This is kind of like my night camo cozy shirt.
So you wore the shirt that you helped this poor now deceased animal into work.
That's right. And I sat down on the lawn chair
after a week of poop,
and I put a little bit of whiskey in my cup.
I bet you did.
And I shook my head, and I shook my head, and I shook my head for as long as I could. I said, "Lord, God, creator of all that's good and holy, what have I done? What is the lesson that I need to learn from being in this situation?" I don't know.
That no matter what in life, Tommy, everything is going to break, and the only person that's ever going to know how to fix it is you.
It's so not me that's the case. Thanks for hearing me out. If anyone has any advice, 329-1899. Give me a call. Let me know what you think we need to do here, because all sarcasm aside, I'm desperately looking for answers.
We did this because we want you to know that your life, whatever's going on in it, there's reason to think that it's maybe not the worst one. Things are going pretty good for you. Let's give away some weights. 329-1899. Got some trivia questions for you. They will have nothing to do with dogs. Next.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Did you gain a little weight last year? Compound can help with that. They have Red Bull Energy 8.4 ounce, 3 for $5.33, and lettuce salads in the deli, only $3.99. Stop by your local Town Pump today. There's one just right down the road.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine, the Advocate Injury Attorney.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and work on the hassle for you so you can focus.
If you've been injured in an accident, with the Advocates, call 406-640-4444 or online at Montana Advocates. The Advocates.
This is Mike Newton, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides custom full-time real estate professionals for you, everything needs. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable, available real estate agents help build unmatched trust. Garden City and State. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectation. Just professional opinions and service. And please work with me. Give Nugent a call today. 531-1802. Remember, every question. Good day.
It's you who have further to fall. Ghost town, want to love. Raise your voice. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Talking loud, not saying much.
I mean, I don't know what you do with it, Coulter. I really don't. I don't know.
Well, we work with mostly a group of very compassionate, loving ladies.
People don't understand.
And they are all very in love with dogs. They bring dogs in from the Humane Society monthly for...
This office is a kennel.
Absolutely. I meet a new dog once a week.
Easily.
And so now we are in so much trouble with all of our coworkers for laughing. We're laughing at Tommy's storytelling ability. I'm not laughing that the people's dog died. It was just so shocking that it was no other reaction besides laughter could come out of that, because I was just like, what? Wait, it died?
If you don't think that Tommy's plight is hysterical, I can't help you. This is as funny as it gets. The circumstances are not fun. In fact, they're not fun at all. That's what makes Tommy's situation just beyond belief. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, across the great state. We go down to the phones. It's time for a Wing It Wednesday. We welcome in Chris to the show. Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Outstanding, Chris. Appreciate that. Chris, have you ever done any house or dog sitting over the course of your tenure here?
Nothing like what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always into it. Like, I'm like, hey, yeah, man, I'll help you out, do whatever. Watch. I've had people, I got a rabbit. Let the people watch. I think I'm done with it. Like, I don't think this swears me off of the thing. I want to avoid something even remotely like this before I get in too deep. You know what I mean? The first accident that I got to clean up, I'm already a 10 out of 10 on the Fury scale. You know what I mean? And if we're talking about dozens, done with it.
When I was a kid, I had a hamster go while I was gone. My friend was stuck with it, so similar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. On a kid scale, that's probably right in there.
It was.
Chris, why don't we see about some wings? Can we do something like that? We got 3 trivia questions for you. If you get 2 of them right, you're going to get a basket of wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, the finest wings in the city of Missoula. If you get all 3, we're going to give you a shirt. And if you need help on any of these, Coulter is your lifeline. That sound all right?
Sounds great.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
All right, Chris, this is very current events. I don't know if you're aware of this. Some of you may not be, but in the last 2 hours or so, Eli Manning announcing his retirement from the NFL. Eli Manning no longer going to be playing professional football. Obviously, the longtime great New York Giant quarterback. So he hangs him up after 16 seasons as an NFL football player quarterback. So these are Eli Manning-related trivia questions today, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, question number 1 for you. What was Eli Manning's record in Super Bowls?
Just 2-0.
You are correct. Seems like everybody knows that he won 2. I thought maybe you'd get hung up on whether he ever made it to another one that he did not win. 2-0 is exactly what Eli Manning was. Very well done. Very well. Question number 2. As a starter in the regular season, what was Eli Manning's regular season career winning percentage?
Well, I guess it's got to be less than 500. I'm going to need help with that one.
Coulter, do you have any idea?
Well, how close do we have to get? Because I know that one of Eli Manning's last career starts, I believe it was either the last or second to last game that the Giants won this year, even to Eli Manning's record at 500. Then I believe he might have lost one more to go one game below, but he also might have gotten benched for Danny Dimes and not gotten to finish the stretch run. I honestly only paid attention to the Giants this year during the little stretch of time when Eli was actually the quarterback. Because what they're doing to my boy Saquon Barkley is just criminal. It just hurts. I mean, he's already got like 800 touches and for what? 5 wins.
Yeah.
Ouch. It's brutal. But I would say it depends on how close Ryan wants to get. But I'd say 500 is a pretty good guess, or maybe one game above or below 500.
Yeah, I gotta go with that 500. Got to be in that neighborhood.
117 and 117.
There you go, 500 on the dot.
A career 500, even 50% quarterback in terms of winning. Excellent work. Great use of the lifeline. That gets you a basket of wings over to the Desperado, Chris. Congratulations there. Let's see if we can get you a third question. A shirt, excuse me. Question number 3 for you. How many siblings does Eli Manning have, and what are their names?
Well, there's Peyton, and I believe he's got an older brother, Cooper. Well, I'm going to say 2.
And I appreciate you not sitting around trying to think about, Dahlia and Shannon, the 2 sisters that do not exist. He's got 2 brothers. They're Peyton and Cooper. That's the 3 of them. That's the Manning family. You go 3 for 3, Chris. Excellently done by you. You got yourself the shirt. You got yourself the wings. Congratulations, my friend. Well done.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Information to David there in the back will get you all set up. That's how you do it right there. See, that's the way to talk it out, right? The first one, pretty easy, 2-0. The winning percentage, not so easy. I probably wouldn't ask it if it was like 58.7% and force you into something like that. But it is interesting. 117 after all those years. A couple of Super Bowls ends up right on the money, right on the number. All right. There you go. Hour number 1 in the books. We come back with hour number 2 right after this. We'll do some more trivia with you. And then Jay Flores, he is assistant coach The University of Montana men's basketball team is the subject of our ESPN Roundtable this week. The Grizz right now on the road to Pocatello to take on Idaho State tomorrow night. So we got to catch up with Jay today and talk to him just about his path, his basketball life, as it were, and Montana this very season as they sit at 6-1 atop the standings in the Big Sky Conference. Hey, the Polaris New Year's sales event is on. It's on right now, and it is the perfect time to find your perfect ride at Kurtz Polaris. With financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and savings up to $3,500, Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula is on Highway 83 in Sealy. The mountains, they're full of snow and getting more every single day. Kurtz has all the best machines, apparel, and accessories to take full advantage of the season. Look great, be warm, and be safe with Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. It's the most fun you can have in snow. Kurtz Polaris, winter awaits. 329-1899 right now. Trivia. Heck. Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at SelwayArmory.com.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Join the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula and your community to save the oldest known Willamette steam engine in the nation. Why is Missoula's engine number 7 unique? The engine spent its life in our mountains and valleys, never traveling more than 80 miles from Missoula. It is one of only 2 surviving locomotives from Anaconda Lumber Co., and the only one in Montana. It's a Hollywood movie star, as it played a leading role in the 1934 film Timberjack. Support history and save the train. Learn more and donate at FortMissoulaMuseum.org.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work? Not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Homer, Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. Jeff Choate and the Montana State football team have more turnover on their offensive coaching staff exactly a week after news that former offensive coordinator Matt Miller is now the wide receivers coach at Boise State came out. Montana State running backs coach and recruiting coordinator Denarius McGee is heading to the NFL. On Tuesday afternoon, Skyline Sports confirmed the former Bobcat All-American quarterback will be a yet-determined position with the Houston Texans. Montana State confirmed the move on Tuesday evening. McGee has spent the last 3 seasons on Jeff Choate's staff, coaching quarterbacks in 2017 and running backs the last 2 seasons.
He served as MSU's recruiting coordinator for the last year and a half.
Montana Tech announced the hiring of Kyle Sampson as their head football coach on Tuesday. Sampson served as Tech's offensive coordinator last season. He replaces Chuck Morrell, who took an assistant job at Fresno State after 9 seasons as the head coach in Butte. Sampson is the 2002 Gatorade Montana Player of the Year. At Helena Capital, he spent a season playing wide receiver at Montana before transferring back to play for his father, Mark Sampson, at Montana State Northern. There, he was a multiple-time All-Frontier Conference quarterback, and then became the Lights offensive coordinator in 2007, a position he held till 2014. He recently coached Kalispell Flathead to the Class AA state title game in 2018.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
My hands are searching for you. My arms are outstretched towards you. I feel you on my fingertips. My tongue dances behind my lips for you.
Hey, boys and girls. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Flyleaf, a little underrated. Oh, I'm kidding. It is hour number 2 of the big show. We're going to do some Wing It Wednesday. You want to get some trivia done? Chris was just a winner. We'll do another one right now, 329-1899. 329-1899, the phone number. And you get in here. Colt just got 3 trivia questions for you. You get 2 of them right, you're going to get yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. So give us a call right now, 329-1899. You missed anything in the first hour of the show, including one of the great stories ever told. That's right. Full stop. Go to the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to the Tutel and Nuanez podcast wherever you want, whenever you want, next to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communications. Also want to remind everybody, check out the Grizz Greats. Is out now, episode 2, available wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats. It is there thanks to Blackfoot Communication, Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate, Stockman's Bar. To all of those. We're getting on with that thing. Great podcast series, and Mike Montgomery's is out right now. You go listen to it. It's fantastic. Go check out the Grizz Greats podcast series. Let's go. Do a Wing It Wednesday, shall we? We head to the Rangich Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in Josh to the show. Josh, how are you?
Great. How are you guys?
Doing outstanding, Josh. Appreciate it. Here's the deal, my friend. We got 3 questions for you. You get 2 of them right, you got yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado. You get all 3, you're going to get yourself a Desperado Sports Tavern t-shirt as well. How good is that? If you need any help on any of these, I'm your lifeline. Coulter's asking the questions this time around. Is that all right with you, Josh?
Perfect. Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
All right, Josh. Coulter, take it away.
All right, here we go, Josh. This is piggybacking off. Were you listening to the show about 15 minutes ago with Ryan's questions about Eli Manning?
No.
Okay, well,
wait. What were you doing? Josh, I mean, turn on your radio.
I just got off of work. I turned you on right away.
Oh, man.
Great. Okay, well, good.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I got so agitated. That's okay.
Eli Manning retired officially today. Ryan had a couple questions about Eli Manning, one of which was, what was Eli Manning's career record win percentage? And Eli Manning finished his career 116 and 116 as a
17,
starter.
I think, but whatever.
Directly at 500.
Exactly at 500.
So these questions are sort of originated off of. So, in a perfect form of symmetry, in the 100 years of the NFL, there has been 100 quarterbacks that have won 50 or more regular season starts. So these questions originate off of that. First question. There's only one quarterback in NFL history with over 200 regular season wins. He is 219 and 64 in his career for a 77.4 or 774 win percentage. Name this active NFL starting quarterback with 219 career victories.
Tom Brady, I'm assuming.
Has to be.
It is Tom Brady.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well done there.
Tom Brady,
219?
219 wins, so he is a full 33 wins ahead of Brett Favre, Peyton Manning.
Man.
What a deal. I mean, that's 2 seasons worth of games, presuming you're winning every single one.
Totally.
And he has, I don't know what season he's in. Is he in his 19th or 20th year?
He's been in the league since 2000, so this was his 20th year. This will be his 20th.
And I don't think Brett Favre
No, it was his 20th year.
20 years.
No, Brett Favre played from 91 to 2010, so 19 seasons.
Okay. But he played every game. And Peyton Manning, I don't know how many seasons he played total.
1998 to 2015, so 17.
Okay, so he has played a little bit extra time. But that's unbelievable to be that far out in front in that category is remarkable. Okay, question number 2.
All right, Josh, you got 1 down, 2 to go. You need 1 more for wings, and you still have a lifeline. Number 2, amongst these 100 players, quarterbacks with 50 wins, 25 of them have been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There is 6 quarterbacks that have been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame with 500 win percentages or lower. 500 career record of 500 or lower. 6 guys that are NFL Hall of Famers. Name one.
500 or lower.
So 1 half or less of the games that he started in the regular season. 6 Hall of Fame quarterbacks with 500 records or below.
Okay. And name one that is in the Hall.
Just give me one of the Hall of Famers that had a 500 or below record.
Oh man, this may be my lifeline.
Man, this is a good question. I think Terry Bradshaw, he doesn't get all the love for being a great quarterback, but I still think that he was his teams were, so I think he's got a better than 500 record, I would think. Joe Namath might be a guy who won a Super Bowl with the Jets, but he only won 1, and then his career, I think, was more marked out of his persona than maybe all of his play. It wouldn't surprise me if he was under 500. Fran Tarkenton, I don't even know if he's in the Hall or if he'd be under it. I would go with Joe Namath for me if I was just gonna. I think that's a pretty good option in this one.
All right, I'm down with it.
Joe Namath is correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep. Joe Namath had a 62-63 record.
Wow, really?
In his NFL career. Several other
not quite 219 wins.
No, not quite 219 wins.
Is Tarkenton even in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely. Fran Tarkenton is the 8th winningest quarterback in NFL history.
Okay. I thought he was.
He won 4 NFC championships. He's one of the top 10 passers.
But he had a better than 500 record.
He did. He had about 620 was his career record.
All right.
You have to remember, man, the Vikings were one of the best teams in the NFC in the 70s.
Okay.
You don't remember because you don't know anything about anything.
I won't remember because I was not alive at that time. That would be one reason.
Were you alive during World War II?
No.
You know a lot about that.
We did get a win in that one.
All right. Well, you got no lifeline. You got 2 in the bag, though. Okay, so the other guys.
You don't have to give them all to me. But
Warren Moon, Dan Fouts, Sonny Jurgensen, George Blanda, and Norm Van Brocklin.
Really? I didn't know Warren Moon was sub 500.
Warren Moon is actually exactly at 500, and actually George Blanda was 1 game above 500.
So you've been lying to us.
506.
Okay.
It's interesting looking at some of the quarterbacks back then, though, because the whole lens of evaluating it basically came down to winning in big games. That's it.
Yeah.
George Blanda threw 50 more picks than he did touchdowns. Joe Namath had only 1 year where he had a positive touchdown-interception ratio,
right,
but he won Super Bowl III, and so he's remembered as Broadway Joe. Okay. So you got the wings. Congratulations, Josh. So we give you 1 more for the shirt. You got no help, though. So name the NFL quarterback, the only NFL quarterback with 50 career wins or more who won 80% or more of his starts. This quarterback was the starter for the Cleveland Browns from 1945 to 1955. He went 57-13. People that know football know who this guy is. This guy's one of the greatest players of all time. He was a 3-time NFL champion, a multiple-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time NFL Most Valuable Player. He was on the 75th anniversary team, the 100th anniversary team.
The NFL
he was better than the other 3 quarterbacks playing for the other 3 teams that exist at the time, huh?
All I'm saying is, I bet you
That's
that
right. Wasn't
I
even
bet
the
you
NFL,
most
David.
people could only name like 3 players
Who
before
is it?
1960, and this is one of them. Otto Graham.
Okay. Otto Graham is a recognizable name, no doubt about it. I would have never, ever gotten there on that one. Here's the good news, Josh. Okay? You got wings. That's what you came for. That's what you're going home with. You give your information to David there at the back, and you can stew why you're sitting in there with no shirt on because of Otto Graham while you're eating your wings, all right?
I will. Thank you, guys.
You got it. Thanks, Josh.
Yes, I'll
Otto
give you
Graham.
$10 for every guy that you can name from the NFL 1950s All-Decade team. $10 each.
1950s?
1950s All-Decade team.
Jim Brown?
Jim Brown's not on the list.
Seems like an oversight.
I don't think he was in the league yet.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Two Tell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Bank is proud to share that our customer, Phillipsburg Brewing Company, has been crafting quality handcrafted beer since 2002. Congratulations to Nolan and Kathy Smith and the entire team at Phillipsburg Brewing Company and their award-winning beers. Next time you see her, ask Kathy why she calls Farmer State Bank the best bank ever. Farmer State Bank, helping businesses succeed since 1907.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on it.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444. Online at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Arts Missoula is seeking nominations for the 21st Annual Missoula Arts and Culture Awards. Individuals or groups may be nominated for awards in 5 categories: Cultural Ambassador, Individual Artist, Arts Educator, Business Support for the Arts, and Cultural Vision. Award winners will be honored at Arts Missoula's Annual Awards Luncheon at the Doubletree Hotel on Tuesday, April 7th. Nominations will be accepted through Wednesday, February 12th. To nominate or to purchase tickets for the 21st Annual Missoula Arts and Culture Awards, go to artsmissoula.org.
This is Tom Sturgeon. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. BORGEN.
Good afternoon, evening as it were. Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Jeff Choate and the Montana State football team have more turnover on their offensive coaching staff. Exactly a week after the news broke that former offensive coordinator Matt Miller would be heading to Boise State to be the wide receivers coach, Montana State running backs coach and recruiting coordinator Denarius McGee is headed to the NFL. On Tuesday afternoon, Skyline Sports confirmed the former Bobcat All-American quarterback will take a as-of-yet-to-be-determined position with the Houston Texans. Montana State confirmed the move on Tuesday evening. McGee has spent the last 3 seasons on Jeff Choate's staff, coaching quarterbacks in 2017 and running backs the last 2 years. He's also been the recruiting coordinator for MSU for the last season and a half.
Montana Tech hired Kyle Sampson as their new head football coach on Tuesday. Sampson served as Tech's offensive coordinator last year. He replaces Chuck Morrell, who took as an assistant job at Fresno State after 9 seasons as the head coach at Tech. Sampson, who was the 2002 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year at Helena Capital, spent a season playing at the University of Montana before transferring to play for his father, Mark Sampson, at Montana State Northern. Sampson was an all-Frontier quarterback for the Lights before then taking over as the offensive coordinator from 2007 to 2014. He most previously coached Kalispell Flathead, helping the Braves earn a bid in the 2018 Class AA state title game.
Jay Flores, presented by Paradise Falls. It is Tutela Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you across the great state on this fine Wednesday evening. Hope you are well. Thanks for letting us be with you. If you'd like to listen live, you can go online to our website, 1029ESPN.com. Listen live there on the Listen Live tab. It's available all the time, and it's there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank. Your opportunity. It is time now for our ESPN Roundtable. I like to do this every Wednesday. This will air again tomorrow during the 12 o'clock hour on ESPN Radio. And then again on Skyline Sports MT. It will be there as part of the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. But this week, our guest, Jay Flores. He is the assistant coach for the Travis DeCure on the University of Montana men's basketball team. He played his college basketball at Chico State, played a year professionally in Mexico, and then started his coaching career in the state of California, the Division II level, before eventually coming over here. Interestingly, I'll hear this in here, but Chris Cobb, the assistant coach for Travis DeCure, associate head coach, was on the staff at Chico State while Jay Flores was a player. So they kind of followed each other around. I mean, Jay's only maybe 2 years younger than Chris Cobb is or something like that, but enough that he, Chris obviously got into the coaching profession right away when he was able to. And so they've kind of been hand in glove for quite a while, those two in particular. But fun to talk with Jay Flores this afternoon. We appreciate him fitting us in. It's kind of a tight schedule as they're getting ready to get on the bus, but we're down at the university. And Jay's a guy, Coulter, who's sort of grounded out here for a while in the coaching ranks. And then a couple seasons ago, Travis DeCure saw enough in him to bring him on staff, and he's been, a fixture on this staff for the last 3 seasons.
The grind that is college coaching, man, it's just so crazy, like how much time you got to put in to incrementally move up the ladder.
Right.
But this group that Travis DeCure's got now, that all three, Chris Cobb, Jay Flores, and Zach Payne, are all really good young coaches, and I think that they relate well to the guys. And I think that Jay and Chris specifically connect very well with Travis. They offset him quite a bit, just his personality. I mean, for those who haven't noticed, Travis DeCure is a very intense individual, and his demand for success is crazy. And I think that's just having some guys that can be a little bit more steady. I mean, Travis is a steady guy, but you know what I'm saying. Good cop, bad cop. I mean, Travis is very hard on his guys, and I think that Jay is a guy that can kind of pick guys up and give them that positive vibe. But these guys are doing a great job. They work really hard. And the fact that all three of those assistants have young babies, I mean, under a year old for all three.
It's crazy.
What a cool shared experience for those guys. But also, I mean, every time I talk to them, I'm like, how's it going, man? Man, I'm getting through it.
I don't know. What's your name? What time is it?
What time is it? What day is it? Haven't slept in weeks. I mean, like Cobb was telling me, he's learned how to hold the baby and rock it while also maybe send a text to a recruit. Yeah. So, like, he's actually being productive at 3 a.m. when he's walking around. So, I mean, you got to remember these guys they're humans. They got lives too. And I think, leaving your baby and going on the road for 5 days, that's tough on anybody. So these guys deserve a lot of credit for the sacrifices they make. But Jay, it was fun talking to him because we've talked to him a ton, but we've never actually got a chance to have a full sit-down interview with him. So it was great to welcome him to the show as a guy we kind of know, but cool to have his perspective in this ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls.
Well, here on campus at the University of Montana, and happy to be joined in this week's ESPN Roundtable by an assistant coach on the University of Montana men's basketball team, Jay Flores. Jay, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you. It's been a great season so far in conference play. Obviously, the Grizz 6-1. You're getting ready to get on the bus and head for Pokey and take on Idaho State. But just right now, I mean, everybody on the outside goes 6-1, a game and a half up on the rest of the league. Everything looks good, but you just get done with a practice. You got another big weekend swing, and then the Cats after that. So where do you feel like this team is kind of at here, a third plus of the way through the conference schedule?
We talked a lot about it on Monday. We're in a good spot. I think the guys have done a great job, especially if you look in the non-conference. We struggled to close out close games in certain instances, and I think when we started off against NAU and SAC and got a little bit of confidence that we could get it done, so we put ourselves in a good position. And I've said this about 5 or 6 teams. We're 6-1 right now. We very easily could be 3-4. I mean, we have had 3 or 4 one possession games that Sac State misses a free throw that gives us opportunity, and Kendall goes and makes his. So we're in a good spot. But I think the one thing that this group has done a good job of, and it's especially been from the senior or the upperclassmen leadership, is we've got to take it one day at a time since we got back from Christmas. The Omaha game that was ours to have and left a sour taste in our mouth. And I feel like since then we've kind of refocused and been like, you know what, we got to take these practices to get better and improve so that when you see the products on Thursdays and Saturday nights, it's what is representative of who we actually are.
You mentioned how tight some of the games have been, you and everybody else in this conference. I mean, Idaho is 13 points total loss in 5 games, that they've lost by. So they could easily be 4-2, 5-1 maybe, yet they're 1-5 at the bottom. Why is it that Montana and you guys have been able to win those games this year? You mentioned, obviously coming out of Omaha, but other teams have not or have been splitting those, but the Grizz seem to consistently come out on top in those close matchups.
One of the big selling points when we're recruiting guys is just that this program is about winning, about I mean, you and I were just sitting here talking about the history of coaches and how much success they've had. So we do have quite a few young guys, but I think the older guys are used to winning. You know what I mean? Like when you look at Kendall, Saeed, Timmy. I mean, Mac had a lot of success last year as a freshman. Jared Samuelson. So when you have that confidence that you've gotten it done before, I think when it becomes tight down the stretch and you say, okay, we got to make 1 or 2 plays to make it happen, then inside I expect it to do it. And, wearing that Montana on the front of your jersey gives you a little bit more oomph, I think, in those situations. And I think on the flip side of it, when you play against Montana, in the back of your mind, you're kind of thinking, oh man, how's this going to go for us? Are we going to be able to get this done? And I think that plays a lot into it. And you have guys that when you win, you're used to making winning plays. And if you look at the couple games we've had, I mean, Kendall made some free throws. We've had guys step up and make big shots. Timmy steals the ball at Southern Utah. We've had those older guys to kind of just be like, you know what, guys, it's my turn to make a play, and they've gotten it done.
As an assistant coach on Travis DeCuire's staff, big part of your job is putting together scouts of the rest of the league. I've covered this league now for 14 seasons. There's a lot of turnover at every level of college basketball this day and age. A lot of kids entering the transfer portal or transferring or whatever it might be. But to me, it seems like this league this year has more turnover than ever. I mean, Portland State, I only recognized 2 guys on their team. Idaho, I mean, they had 9 new guys. Yeah. Idaho State, another one with Coach Ryan Looney as a first-year head coach. I mean, he brought in, it seemed like a dozen new players. So how much difficult is it to scout teams, especially when you have almost no familiarity with these guys from a face-to-face basis? That's
a great question. I think college basketball in general is trending that way, where there's less patience overall in the game from administrations to coaching staffs to players. I want stuff right away, right now. So I think the biggest thing that has played into that turnover, like you say, is there are so many coaching changes. Jack Murphy left NAU. Idaho State had a coaching turnover. Idaho, there's a lot of interim guys. And so when you have that, they bring new systems in, they bring new players in, and you are really still trying to, right now, 7 games in, Montana State, that's my next scout, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, Harold Frey is still the guy, but they have a lot of different peripheral pieces that go around him, they play differently. So it is definitely different this year, even than just last year, in terms of going to the Montana State Scout, I knew exactly what they were going to do, the specials they were going to run. And now this year, maybe you watch 1 or 2 extra games just to get a feel. And on top of that, there have been so many upsets, so to speak, in terms of teams lower with worse records or beating teams with higher records. You're like, man, anything could happen on these nights because it's so unusual.
With this league, I mean, we watched Idaho the other night. Idaho's pretty good. I mean, you guys beat them worse than anybody's beat them before, and you only won by 4. You look at those standings. I mean, Weber State is in second to last place, but Weber State has one of the best players in the league. So is there actually even such thing as an upset in this league this year?
That's a great question. I just say that in terms of teams with worse records have beat teams with better records, but we talk about it as a staff all the time. This is a day-at-a-time thing because realistically, the conference winner this year could have 6 losses, maybe 7 losses. You never really know. Idaho, on paper, has the worst record in the conference. After we left them, after they left the gym, I was like, man, like that going to Idaho, that's going to be a hard game to win. You know what I mean? And they all are. And you just got to try to stay the course. And there's going to be times that probably we don't play as good as we want to play, and then a team is playing well that night and making some shots. And if we don't come out on top, you got to be able to regroup. And because, like you say, like you could be beaten by anybody. I mean, it's up for grabs.
Jay Flores joining us. He's assistant coach for the University of Montana men's basketball team. And Jay, let's take you back a little bit. You were a great player at Chico State and conference MVP, if I've got it right. And we went on to play professionally in Mexico for a year when you were done. But did you know when you were playing that, hey, coaching is a thing I'd like to pursue? Because we know whatever kind of player you were, you start on the bottom rung, man. When you get into the coaching ranks, is that something that you said, "Hey, I don't care. This is what I want to do. I want to stay in the game"? For sure, that's a great question. When I got to Chico State, where I went to school, where Coach Cobb coached me at, one of my assistant coaches called me in the office and said, "Hey, what do you want to do once you're done playing?" And then I said, "I haven't really thought about it. I want to stay around basketball." He said, "Well, you'd make a great coach." And then I said, "Well, that sounds fun to me." And then he kind of got me in, because it was in the off season. So in the summer times, I started working camps, and I always knew it was something that I wanted to. I think I identified with coaches. You said conference MVP. I averaged about 9 points a game my senior year. It was a lot due to the team's success. But I think that if you ask somebody how I played, I think I played like a coach on the floor. I think I tried to get guys in the right spots and direct traffic and know what was going on with the other team and our own team. So I always wanted to be a leader on the court, and I think that kind of translated into knowing that this could be a career that, one, is really fun. I always say, especially specifically here at University of Montana, being able to live in Missoula, this is a dream job. You know what I mean? Like, this is as an assistant coach, I don't think it gets much better than this in terms of the level, how big time the basketball is. But I always thought coaching in general would be a special career where I could stay around basketball and help people, which is like the main thing. It's interesting too. You mentioned Chris Cobb was on that staff at Chico for a couple of years as an assistant while you were a player, so you guys had that connection from that time, and that kind of carried on. But then you went on and were an assistant on a Division II school in California, right? And it's interesting, the 3 years you were there, that team was not very good. I mean, they struggled throughout those 3 years. Then you come to the University of Montana, and fifth the first year, but first the last 2, and you're on top again. What is the difference in something like culture? I realize the levels are different and all that kind of stuff, but to go from a place where it is a struggle, and the wins are kind of few and far between, and then you come here and it's expected that basically every night out it's going to be a dub. For sure, it's been great for my coaching career to experience both ends of the spectrum. When Coach Arsenal, who I worked for at Cal State East Bay, took over, they were transitioning from a lower level into the Division II ranks, and we knew it was going to be a process. And I always say it is that experience was invaluable for me because we were growing the program from like the absolute bottom, you know what I mean? And I had to do everything. And actually, what's interesting now is if you look at our staff between myself, Coach Cobb, and Coach Payne, all three of us have lower level coaching experiences where you don't have a lot of support, so you just kind of, you're academic advisor, you run recruiting, you do the travel, you do the scouts, you're helping in practice. It is all encompassing, and I think it helps make you a better coach. Now, I will say, when, like I said before, when you put that Montana jersey on, that means it's bigger, and Travis says it all the time to the guys, this program is bigger than any one individual that has ever been here, and from Coach Montgomery to Stu Morrill to Blaine Taylor, there have been guys to come through, and the thing just keeps running. And I think part of that is the support of the community and just how special of a place this is. But it was interesting. It was an interesting experience just coming in, and we struggled in that
non-conference my first year here in 2016-17, I want to say what it was.
That's correct.
The years blur together already. But we struggled in non-conference, and all of a sudden you get to conference, and bang, we start out 5-1. You know what I mean? The only loss was Jeremy Singleton his step back 3 at the buzzer in overtime, and the mentality of the guys here was just a little bit different in terms of like, this is what it is, guys. Like, this is what we got to do to get it done.
There's 350 or so Division I programs in the country, and the expectations vary at each school. The expectations here are arguably as high as anywhere in the country. Maybe not national championship, but certainly to win the Big Sky, go to the NCAA tournament perennially. But the resources aren't like they are at North Carolina, Kansas, and Syracuse. So what's it like balancing? I mean, you guys have as much pressure in terms of your on-job performance as anybody, but you don't have a $50 million budget like some schools. So what's the balancing act like as far as just approaching how to take on those high expectations?
That's an interesting question, because I don't really, you just get encompassed with Montana basketball. You don't really think about all of that. And I will say, after being to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, it's the greatest experience you could ever have as a college basketball coach or player. I think that when you see the level of basketball there, every program should be excited to be there every single year, regardless if you're North Carolina or University of Montana. I think one of the things that we do a great job of, and Travis says it all the time, is enjoy being good. So essentially that's just enjoy the process and just don't worry about the end result of like, hey, let's make the NCAA tournament, let's win the regular season championship. I think it is more of a day-to-day, hey guys, let's have a great practice today, and let's have a great practice tomorrow. And let's have a great shoot-around on Thursday so that when we play against Idaho State on Thursday night, we're ready to rock and we can play the best basketball we can. Because the toughest part about this level, right, is that you can do it day-to-day over the course. I mean, look at the first year we won the championship in 2017-18. We kind of dominated the league a little bit, finishing 16-2, and then we essentially almost lost all 3 games in the conference tournament. Right. You know what I mean? Like, literally, with the ESPN meter said that Northern Colorado had a 99% chance to win. So you can be about the process every day, and then some things get taken out of your hands. And, lucky enough that we were able to get it done. But if you just worry about being the best basketball team you can, then hopefully when you get to March in those 3 days, you are the best team you can, and the chips fall where they may.
That ESPN meter doesn't know anything, okay? We know this. We're on the inside. We make that meter, right, Coulter?
Well, you mentioned how fun it is to play in the NCAA tournament, but getting there, too, I mean, covering you guys in the last 2 tournaments has been one of our great pleasures that we've got a chance to do. I mean, Northern Colorado game in the semifinals of the tournament in the last year in Reno, I'll never forget it. I mean, I fell out of my chair 3 times just watching the game. I mean, Jordan Davis's dunk, the missed free throws, the crazy Bobby Moorhead gets the ball, takes it back.
Miller, yeah.
I mean, you couldn't even make this stuff up. But just going through the tournament the last couple of years, playing on a neutral site, taking everybody's best shots, what are some of your best memories of those experiences?
Everyone talks about, and I will say the Northern Colorado game is the single greatest comeback. Considering the stakes and everything that was on the line and how well they were playing and all that, that was the single greatest game looking back that I've ever been part of. I will say, during the game, that was not fun. I looked at Riley Bradshaw when we were down 6 or 8, however many it was. I said, man, this is going to take something special. And Riley Bradshaw just turned to me, he's like, we'll be okay. I was like, man, you're very calm. That makes me happy. Anytime the first time you do it, and especially because we were down at half in all 3 games in Reno, it was special. But, that Weber State game last year in Boise with the crowd, Boise was essentially like a home environment for us, and just like the energy and the intensity of every moment the shot would go through and you hear the crowd going crazy. But just to come out against Weber, with the rivalry, like the history of the 2 programs, and to just, arguably you could say that's the best since I've been here that a Montana team has played in a game.
No question.
I think the Northern Colorado game at Northern Colorado last year, we were very focused and dialed in. Once again, it comes back down to the stakes of the NCAA tournaments on the line. That is probably the number one thing when Ahmad Rory comes out and made his first 5 or 6 shots. It was a moment I'll definitely never forget. Just the entirety of the game, and the coaching staff will joke with you. Obviously, we all get on edge, but one of the best moments in the game is they hit a 3 or something like that, and I turn. I'm like, son of a gun! Like, what's going on here? And then I look up, and I thought we were up 27, but we were up 37. And so I was like, okay, I probably can scale it back a little bit right now.
When you talk about that game was the most impressive I've ever seen a Montana team be. You can't pick the days when all the shots are going to fall. Okay, I wish you could. I get that. But what is it about, you talked about being dialed in that Northern Colorado game and the Weber game. Nobody comes out and goes, I'm going to do 93% today. I'm going to do 95% today. Like, everybody comes out wanting and attempting to play their absolute best every day. What's the key to actually doing that? And I realize maybe there's not like an obvious answer here, but how do you make that happen? Because everybody's preparing for 3 or 4 days in March, right? For sure, no doubt. And when this actually goes back to the question you talked about, like when I first got here, I think it all comes back down to preparation, and it starts from the top down. I love making fun of Travis more than anybody, just in terms of joking around, giving him a tough time. But that guy, during the season specifically, prepares like his life depends on it. Like, for example, we beat Idaho on Saturday night. He probably stays up till like 2 o'clock in the morning watching both teams of the upcoming game, so Idaho State and Weber State, so that on Sunday he can hang out with his daughter a little bit, but then he'll watch more. A lot of times he'll rewatch the game that we just watched. So to make a long answer short, I think every team goes in being like, all right, like, this is, we need to be right for right now. But the preparation on a daily basis that goes into what we do for games and for practices, I mean, Travis is as organized as anybody I've been around in terms of down to the minute of what we're doing in practice. And he always says, I want you guys to feel the most prepared that you possibly can when you step on the floor. So then you're just playing basketball, you know what I mean? Like, what we want to do, and you're just going out and doing what you do, So I think that when every single game is treated, whether we're playing Montana Northern or Weber State for the championship, it all is treated the exact same way, that when the stakes get higher, it feels the same. You know what I mean? And I think that is one of the biggest things that Travis brings. Obviously, he's a phenomenal coach, but his level of preparation and intensity to prepare is, I have not been around a lot of guys. He's only my 7th year coaching, but it's pretty elite. There's a reason he wins a lot of games. Jay Flores, University of Montana men's assistant coach, joining us here on the ESPN Roundtable.
Last year's senior class, one of the most successful in school history, and you guys had such a great run with them. First, 3 years ago when it was kind of a struggle, and then to watch them blossom and win 52 games. But this year's team distinctly different. What are the biggest differences you notice about this year's team from last year's team, and what gives you optimism? What do you like about this year's team?
The older guys this year have really, knock on wood, have turned the corner in terms of taking the pressure, so to speak, off the younger guys since Christmas, maybe a little bit before Christmas time. And I think what you saw at the beginning of the year, obviously our schedule was the absolute gauntlet, but we were all still blending together. So guys that were on the team last year were taking on new roles and had new responsibilities and all that. So they weren't really sure what they were being asked to do, in my opinion, because the new guys were still trying to fit in too, because we were trying to see what they had. So to answer your question of like, what's the biggest difference? I think this has been in some ways more fun, just because it's been more of a challenge. But since Christmas time, I think that we have kind of turned the corner of those older guys have been pretty consistent players. You look at Timmy, you look at Kendall, you look at Jared, you look at Saeed. So then you can look at DJ Carter-Hollinger, Josh, and Kyle, and there's not as much pressure on them as freshmen to do X, Y, or Z when they go out on the floor. So when you don't feel that on top of you, then you can go out and play a little bit looser and things happen a little bit easier for you. You know what I mean? Obviously, Saeed's been unbelievable the whole season, but now all of a sudden, the last couple of games, he's had, 7 or 8 assists, and those guys are getting easy shots, and you start to get more confident. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest difference and most fun thing has been watching these younger guys grow as they, kind of just permeate into the team how they feel they can. Like DJ Carter-Hollinger jumps up in the biggest game of the year and has 20 and 14. If, all these guys are not making shots and making the game easier for him, he probably doesn't do that. You know what I mean? So that's been the most fun part and the biggest difference so far. You and your wife just welcomed in first baby this past year to the family. Congratulations on that. JJ hanging out with you now. How much has that
I don't know. I mean, it's always going to change a guy's perspective when he becomes a father and all that. But in terms of professionally with your career and stuff like that, I don't know the right way to say it, the interface there between being a dad and being now a coach and understanding, okay, trying to find the balance and also the joy of it and the whole thing.
First off, I appreciate it. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. There is no more important job than being a dad. I think the two things it has done, one, it has helped me realize, and I mean this in a good way in terms of the job, like you have to rank your priorities, right? Like I don't have as much time just to hang out in the office because he needs to have me at home, especially because we're gone. So, I just saw him and then we leave and come back Sunday. But I think that you're able to understand the players a little bit on a different level. You know what I mean? Just in terms of the love that I have for my son, you want to be able to replicate that with the players, right? Like we always say, like we are a family. And so when they're going through tough times, I think you're a little bit more compassionate of just understanding like, man, like I got to help them out. Like there are things that, especially with the younger guys, like this is a whole new experience. They're away from their family. I think about if my son was, we have a lot of California kids. If I was in Montana, he was in California, I would want someone there to have their best. And we always had that, but I think you understand it a little bit differently when you have a son and you love him, how you can love him. It makes you look at these guys even a little bit more differently than before.
University of Montana on the road this weekend, Thursday, Idaho State, Saturday, Weber State, and back for the Cats a week from Saturday. Jay Flores, appreciate the time.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Jay Flores, our ESPN Roundtable this week. You can hear that again tomorrow on ESPN Radio during the noon hour. And then again on SkylineSportsMT.com. You go listen to it there, part of the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series, anytime that you would like to. And, all of them are up there. This has been a really fun series that we've done over the last almost year now that we've been doing. So we certainly appreciate Jay, though, taking the time as the Grizzlies heading off to Pocatello, playing Idaho State tomorrow, and then Weber State on Saturday. The ESPN Roundtable brought to us by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls at 3621 Brooks Street in Missoula on the south end of town near the corner of Brooks and South Reserve. We've been telling people about Paradise Falls for a little while now. That played happy hour from 9 to midnight. They got a regular timed happy hour as well. Updated menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. People don't have to sometimes think about breakfast. Man, they got a great breakfast at Paradise Falls. You want to get in there and get involved in that thing. And it's a great environment, great atmosphere as well for you and your friends to have fun, for the family to come in and have, a comfortable and non, a weird atmosphere to sit in with the group and all that kind of stuff. And plenty of space to sit in, multiple rooms and everything like that. It's an unbelievable spot.
Doing something cool this month, too. They're going to have their specials running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the whole month. So you can know what the special is. You can go get it at any time. And the specials right now for this month, delicious. Steak Oscar, 14-ounce hand-cut New York strip steak cooked to your liking, topped with a rich lobster meat and decadent hollandaise. Or you can get the Salmon Oscar, which is 8 ounces of wild Alaskan sockeye salmon filet, smothered in lobster, and also has the delicious hollandaise on it.
Into it.
Maybe after you have the steak, you can stay for the late happy hour, whatever you need to do. But Paradise Falls, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, great place to watch sports, 30 big screen TVs, 18 draft beers, a early and late happy hour. We're always bemoaning the fact that we can't ever go to happy hours because we're always on the radio. Well, you can go to Paradise Falls. They have a great late happy hour from 9 to 11, Monday through Thursday. So go check them out, Paradise Falls on the south side of town, 3621 Brooks Street in Missoula, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Join the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula and your community to save the oldest known Willamette steam engine in the nation. Why is Missoula's engine number 7 unique? The engine spent its life in our mountains and valleys, never traveling more than 80 miles from Missoula. It is one of only 2 surviving locomotives from Anaconda Lumber Co. and the only one in Montana. It's a Hollywood movie star, as it played a leading role in the 1954 film Timberjack. Support history and save the train. Learn more and donate at fortmissoulamuseum.org.
Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of gas by idling every single day. Idling for more than 10 seconds actually uses more fuel and produces more emissions than stopping and restarting your engine.
Vehicle exhaust contributes to smog, climate change, and poor air quality, heightening the risk of developing asthma and lung disease. Kids and seniors are especially vulnerable to these health risks.
So next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Brought to you by Missoula in Motion.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Let me feel the same way. How much should I be reading into? The way you look at me in your room.
If everybody could actually hear the stuff we talk about off the radio, man, first of all, we would get banned by the FCC. But second of all, you guys would really enjoy yourselves.
It's off the radio. We wouldn't be banned by anyone.
Well, true. That's true.
And there was nothing wrong there. You just got Roger Federer and Elon Musk You didn't get them turned around. Your guess was...
You asked me questions about Grimes.
Your guess was Roger Federer when the answer was Elon Musk.
Okay.
And it's remarkable just... So, what a wide swath there is. No, it's okay.
So, now, hear me out for a second. I don't follow the celebrity things, but some of the celebrity things are really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
Celebrity relationships and things like that. The talk around our office, as we mentioned earlier, we work with a great deal of very fine women, and they have been really captivated by the Brad Pitt saga that's been going on at the award shows and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have followed this so little, even though that Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, and Jennifer Aniston are 3 of the most famous people on earth. I was under the impression that Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston had been married this whole time. I thought Brad Pitt left Angelina Jolie for Jennifer Aniston. I was informed today that it was the other way around. My mind was blown.
Is that right?
Which is why I mix up Roger Federer and Elon Musk.
I mean, hey, listen, I give you a ton of credit here. I didn't know any of the Kardashian-Jenner deals for quite a long time.
See, now those are the ones that are like really in your face because those girls love athletes so much.
Yeah. So it's hard to follow the NBA and not follow the Kardashians.
Particularly when it's actually not just relationship and gossip based, like they've actually had an impact on the NBA by ruining these guys' careers.
I mean,
James Harden won the MVP the year after he broke up with a Kardashian. Is it a coincidence?
Yes. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are all over the place. The internet. You can catch us on the YouTube channel. Go check it out there. Instagram and Twitter at 102.9 ESPN. We also are on the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get podcasts. Go check it out. Download the Tutel Nuanez podcast. Subscribe to it. It's available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communication. Coulter, tonight, it's happened. It's happened. The second coming is making his debut officially in the NBA. Zion Williamson going to suit up and play. I don't know if he's going to start. I guess he will, but I guess I don't know that for a fact. Reportedly, there is no minute count or anything for Zion in this basketball game. We'll see. But I'm excited. I mean, look, watching what Zion did in the summer league, half that he played in, was pretty remarkable. Or not? Was it the summer? Yeah, it was the summer league, right? So, I love this kid. He's in terms of just like his persona, who he is, what he's, his the excitement that he brings to it, and obviously his freak strength, size, and athleticism, which is a mix that I don't know if we've seen before, makes him absolutely can't miss television. And to me, I'm locked into this game just for that reason, to watch the first time he does it. I know that you have been, before anything ever happened with him, even with the shoe and everything else, you said, this dude's not going to be in it for the long haul from an injury standpoint. So far, that is proven to be true. I certainly, nobody, hopes that it is true, but it has been true so far. We'll see what he's able to do and how long he's able to go here. But the fact that he is playing, we know the NBA ratings have been down here in the first half of the season or so. This is one on ESPN this evening that's going to get a lot of eyeballs.
And I don't mean to sound like a hater. I think Zion Williamson has a ton of star power. I just think that one of the number one pieces of analysis that's lost in the scouting process is just your anatomical build. And I don't mean just how tall and how heavy you are, how your body is structured. So often you can tell someone's predisposition to injury by the way that their hips, legs, and feet are structured. And Zion Williamson, everybody that's watched him play, he's incredibly fast for how big he is. He's also incredibly explosive for how much mass he has. Well, he also runs funny. He doesn't run with his feet straight forward. He runs with his feet out. When you have wide hips and your feet go out and you're sort of knock-kneed, the proportionality of your body, and then you add to the fact that you're 285 pounds when you jump 40 inches in the air, the impact of that, you being able to land correctly over and over and over again, is just so much less than someone that is built way more anatomically symmetrical. So that's just, it's been a big story in the league, right? They're trying to teach him how to run differently. This was the whole knock on Steph Curry. Steph Curry was the opposite. He kind of ran with his toes in and kicked his legs out to the side, and he would always roll his ankle. You've been watching the Grizz. Derek Carter-Hollinger, the freshman.
Yep.
He is a little bit bow-legged. He's got the Steph Curry. He rolls his ankle every game. And it's just because of the way that he runs.
He does not.
He's rolled his ankle 3 games in a row, for sure.
I watched him roll his ankle when he jumped up and landed on somebody's foot.
He rolled his ankle 3 times against Eastern Washington alone. He's rolled his ankle at least 5 times in the last 3 games.
Also, it's easy when you roll it again.
I totally agree. All I'm saying is that it's real science. The reason Steph Curry has become one of the greatest players in NBA history